But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed college. And it actually, I want to say college was both like incredibly useful for me and completely meaningless. Because I more or less like went to college and kind of learned how to do things. I learned how to do digital art. I learned how to do vectors. Wow, I actually beat it. Barely. I should probably level that skill some more. But still. A great time to discuss if people are making college choices. Indeed. Sort of. I think a lot of people have already made their choices and even got accepted, but still. Yeah, how to life. I tell you, but I'm still figuring it out. And I think that's true of, like, almost everybody. But I will say, like, it's fun to goof off. It's fun to, like, watch buttloads of... I binged through the entirety of the Digimon series in 1 week. Or, you know, get really way too far into Game of Thrones, or... Are these boner Nazis? They're like weird boner Nazis. That's amusing. Okay, but yeah, it's fun, especially like the moment you go to college. You have this like freedom that you really can do whatever you want. You want to play video games? Sure. You want to stay up all night? Sure. You want to goof off and not do your work? Sure. No one's going to stop you. You're eventually going to get kicked out of college, potentially, depending on what college you're at. But like I find you kind of, the more you goof off, the more you pay dividends later on. And this is one hell of a long wave. Ow. It might be worth putting a couple of points into Life Force at this point. Higher power would be nice, but this one keeps me up. Obviously, it doesn't let me beat bosses, but whatever. Okay, so these are all new and pretty dang good. And so I'm not going to say that I actually fruitfully went through college. I wasted a fair bit of time that I actually should have been spending almost entirely on getting my butt in gear. What I should have done, honestly, was actually make games. I should have just learned how to program, or at least made, like, all of the assets for a video game while I was there. That would have been the smart thing to do. Instead, I did other stuff. I actually did do a fair amount of my own artwork, which I'm kind of proud of. I know there was one class I took a long time ago. It was personal focus, which, like, it's the most bland blank slate. It is the most bland blank slate class you can take for art school, which is literally do whatever the hell you want. You have 10 weeks, go. So, whenever, you know, whatever you do in the next 10 weeks, you get graded on. Unfortunately, the teacher was too nice. He was like the perfect elderly, like, grandpa type guy that just believed in everybody. But he lacked that, like, tough love grandpa that I think everybody needed as well. And so, like, he was perfectly supportive. He was like, oh, man, you want to work on, like, concept art? Sure, go for it. And so, like, me and a couple other guys would all be like, yeah, we can finally work on, like, game stuff or, like, concept art or blah, blah, blah. And, like, I think we hit the end of the... We hit the midterm, and, like, most of the other guys just straight up hadn't even started. And then the, wow. A lot of these guys. And there's a boss at the end. Owie. He is pummeling the shit out of me. Well, you might want to look into buffing my defense a bit here. Maybe. I don't actually have that many shards. I'm gonna buff one of my other stats. I keep waiting for, like, a better core. Is that a disgusting sponge core? Ugh. If I can beat this boss, I'd like to probably buff whatever gear he gives me. Then again, I time travel in a level, so I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, so the setback from putting points into attack speed didn't really screw me over that much. I don't know. See, did I have a dream goal position job when I was studying? Let's see. Oh, let's finish my story about the people concept art. Effectively, midterm review rolled around, and more or less it was just like, well, how far have you guys gotten? And, like, one guy had a sketch, one guy had, like, you know, a couple of pieces, one guy had almost nobody had anything. It was actually kind of sad. Let's see. I guess I'm going to start pumping it into that health. Because I'm using that a lot. But yeah, so the final review comes around. And I had, like, somewhere near 15 pieces. And many of them were quick stuff that I'd done over the course of, like, 4 or 5 hours. But purely for, like, personal focus during class and so on and so forth. And everybody else just had nothing. And, you know, so many of them had these, like, weird big dreams. And they'd talk about them, too. And I'd always be like, so what did you do last night? Oh, I played World of Warcraft. Oh, what'd you do last night? Oh, I was watching Game of Thrones. Oh, what'd you do last night? Oh, I was talking to my girlfriend in another state. And it's like, okay. So where's your project? And they get really mad at me because obviously, like, they're already being, like, hounded by their teachers. And I'm, like, trying to sit there talking to people that I ostensibly think of as friends-ish. And I'm like, so where are you going with your, like, life plan and whatnot? Man, he is just pummeling me into the dirt. It might actually be worth it to go full defense there. Maybe, I don't know. Kind of depends on the scaling. Because it seems like I get to a certain point and then just everything just wrecks my face. I don't know. Anyway, so what was my dream goal position job when I was studying? So, oh, more stat points that time. That's good. So when I started out, I wanted to be a webcomic artist. I still do, actually. Let's see. So I should probably actually have put some of these points into chi. I'm gonna just put 10 points into chi. And then do I go all in HP or do I go heavy on defense? Let's go defense. Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to figure this out. Like, calling out people is always fun. It was never fun. Everybody always was, like, super bitter about it. Oh, what's that? Chiron's movement and attack speed. Huh. Okay, next time I might spec purely into Chiron. Saw some of your webcomic sketches in Discord, actually. That is one of the things that I desperately want to go back to at some point. Because, like, I really do actually want to make a webcomic. I also really want to write a book. And I want to make a game at some point. But it'd be easier for me to write a book or make a webcomic. I think what I need to do is actually go back to working on the webcomic. Let's just sell all items. Go back to working on the webcomic, and then, if I want to write, well, the weird part is, like, both the webcomic and, one of the writing ideas I really want to do are just straight up choose your own adventure. Probably, maybe on Twitter or something, just be like, put up a poll, and it's like, you wake up in a dark basement, you have a short sword, and a bag full of biscuits. There are 3 of them. They're stale, but they're enough to get you by. There's just enough light to see, and you can see that there's 3 doors. And more or less just, like, kind of choose your own adventure through, like, a couple of pseudo D&D campaigns. Really, I just need to do D&D campaigns again. Because I think that'll also satisfy me in a lot. Because I need to do art, and I need to do stories. And D&D is perfect for that. But still, a visual novel game, Ultimate Solution. I actually really want to do that. I'm trying to convince Shell to... Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to level by pressing 1, 5, and 7 constantly, and that'll just be my leveling plan for this game. And we'll see if that works this time around. It's probably not going to, but still. Let's see, is this an idle type game? Yeah, actually. I mean, it's a... I would say instead of being an idle game, it is a incremental game. I think that's the more holistic description of what it is. What does that go up to? Okay, so the last one is actually very much worth it. Worth the extra points. Let's see, I'll put 1 into health too. But yeah, so it's pretty close to it's pretty close to an idle game. The main thing is you have to send yourself out a bunch recently. Honestly, I guess the closest I can describe this as is one character swag and sorcery. Like, the overall gameplay is super similar. You send your character out, they fight a bunch of things, they come back with a bunch of loot, and then you send them out again. I actually rather like this kind of style. It's easy for me. I can just sit here and just yammer on about whatever the hell I want. And then, you know, switch eventually. I don't know. It's just fun. It does get a little repetitive. That is the one thing I will say, but that's fine. Anyway, so yeah, what do I want to be? So I wanted to start as a webcomic artist, and I still do, and I'm probably going to be working towards that this year, just because it's not actually that hard. It's just mainly a time-consuming thing. And for me, originally, moving out of my apartment was more important than working on, like, a webcomic or anything like that, for what should be relatively obvious reasons. Let's see. I guess, honestly, let's spend that extra level points to max these things out. Yay for webcomics. Yeah, it is something that I will work on soon, TM. Okay, these are all garbage. But, so, that's when I was a freshman. And when I was a freshman, I actually did start a webcomic, but I found that it was too hard for me, that I wasn't actually very good at it. You know, the backgrounds specifically were really, really hard. So I started working on environmental stuff, you know, background art and all sorts of things. And if you go looking, you can actually find a DeviantArt that I have with a lot of my old artwork on it. I wouldn't exactly say it's like the peak of, you know, what I could do at the time. But that's what I have available. And so I more or less was like, okay, so here's my weakness. I got to start working on that. At about the same time, Braid came out. I don't know how many of you guys know of Braid or Aquaria or a couple other things. And I always had a passing interest in video games, but 2D video games were a dead breed. It wasn't even a dying breed, they just went away. So with the exception of, like, a couple of, like, weird games like Dragon's Crown and pretty much anything by the people that made Dragon's Crown, except for those games, there pretty much wasn't any 2D art on the video game market, so I just enjoyed video games as a casual thing. And then Braid came out, and Braid was obscenely fun. I mean, honestly, by today's standards, it's actually kind of lame. The game about nuclear bombs or a different Braid? I don't think nuclear bombs. That was the one. It was like Mario style gameplay, but like you were using time manipulation to solve puzzles. At least that's how I describe it. Yeah, it was the time rewind game. And so I played that and was absolutely just like taken aback at how good it was. And at the time I was trying to develop my background style so that I could get better at webcomics. And more or less, I started emulating the Braid style because it looked great and it was easy to get into. And before I knew it, I was like really gunning to become maybe an indie game developer or something like that. But, you know, really get into that market. Actually, to the point where I forgot almost entirely about making a webcomic. I would read webcomics, but I wouldn't actually like do anything towards them anymore. I had switched my focus. And what I should have done was actually just kept working on the webcomic, you know, quality be damned, because the quality was pretty bad. So yeah, I totally gave up on webcomics because it was no longer the dream, necessarily. It was very much just like a, you know, oh, that would be kind of a fun side thing to do once I'm an established, like, game artist, because part of it is, like, as a webcomic artist, your income is entirely dependent on nebulous audiences and fickle interests on the internet. Which, like, let me tell you, turns out nebulous audiences and fickle whatever opinions of the internet. Being an internet hermit, a self-employed internet hermit, turned out for me to be a hell of a lot more employable than an actual job, which is kind of weird. And so, you know, at the time I was thinking, I'm just going to become a game artist because that's, one, I've got a bunch of friends in the industry and, you know, it's an easy opportunity for me. I know a ton of programmers. Somebody can make the art, somebody can do the programming, I can make the art. and we'll make a game. Turns out every programmer I've ever known is an incredible flake. Well, yeah, pretty much just an incredible flake, and so it never actually panned out. I know I've had offers from people in the past to help me, but honestly, I think initially I'd rather just teach myself how to program and actually make a visual novel, for example. Probably once I've done like a webcomic and like gotten further in that, I'll probably sit down and be like, all right, I got the base skills to make a visual novel. Now it's time to figure out how to program it and something like that. I don't know. And if Shell's ever like super on board for it and actually is just doing the artwork, then I'd teach myself how to program and make the back end for it. I'd say I can't imagine it would be very hard, but the reality is it would be very hard, but I'm really good at learning. That's honestly my only skill in life. I'm not that great at art, but I'm really good at learning how to do certain things in art, so I can kind of get past my lack of skill by just, like, gutsing through it. You know, I'm not actually that good at YouTube, but I'm good at learning the ins and outs, and I can pick up games quickly. So I can just kind of breeze through so much more content than most people ever can. So it worked out for me. I don't know. I'm probably not giving myself enough credit. I'm apparently at least funny enough to get Shell to start asphyxiating if I start making weird dick jokes. So that's got to count for something. But still. But, so, more or less, from sophomore year until graduation, I wanted to be a game artist. And I really was like, yeah, this is going to be the path for me. And then I got a job doing game art, making SpongeBob garbage. And you know what? The luster just wasn't there as much. I got kind of unlucky because, yeah, licensed work is not very fun. It's kind of soul-crushing. And I know people that can do it happily. There's one guy that more or less worked at the studio, and he did almost exclusively, like, Power Rangers stuff. And he loved it. That was his jam. And he was so happy to be there, just making Power Rangers stuff. And his stuff was good. And so, yeah, it worked great for him. But, yeah, some of the rest of us, not so much so. I know one of my coworkers was tasked to work on Winx Club. And, like, no shade on Winx Club fans. If there are any, but, like, it's kind of soul-crushing if you're not a fan of Winx Club, and you pretty much have to spend, you know, weeks working on Winx Club games. And I had to help her, and she was just not happy doing it. It's not hard, just time-consuming, making that kind of game. There's a lot of game constructors that specialize in specific game types. Yeah, I've heard there's a number of, like, let's see. I've heard there are quite a number of, I'll put one point into higher power, but I think I want to just mostly focus on life force, because it's good for grinding and stuff. You mean the badly animated fairy thingies? Yup, that's what she had to do. And it was apparently quite soul-crushing. But yeah, I know there's like a visual novel game maker thing, but I'd probably rather just like sit down and force myself to learn Unity or Game Maker Studio 2 or Unreal, just so I can actually sit down and use it on other things. Like I've already taken multiple classes on object-oriented programming, so like it's not that I'd be starting from square one, and it would probably take an obscene amount of time to actually be good about it, but I don't know. I work better when I have a goal. If I don't have a goal, it sucks. And yeah, debugging is hell. That's my problem. I made a tower defense game years ago, and I spent about 20 hours programming it and about 8 hours debugging it. And admittedly, this is my first project, so I'm pretty sure that might not actually be how it normally boils down, but for me, that's what it was, and it was painful. I was like, never again. Which is why I never tried programming for a while, but, you know, nowadays, since I have an actual job that I can just kind of fall back on, hobby projects are nice. Because otherwise I find myself just sitting around being like, well, what do I do today? Browse the internet for like 10 hours straight? Gotcha. Which isn't great. It's pretty minor % debugging. Huh. Let's see. So I'm at... Yeah, my HP is catching up to my attack. I guess it kind of makes sense. Let's see. But yeah, I don't know. These are just things that I want to do. But yeah, so effectively I worked at Nickelodeon for a while, and they had me working as a, not a keyframe animator, whatever the, I was a technical animator for a bunch of broken animations. I had to fix them up. Which actually wasn't, like, so bad, but... And I got really good at it, but then we ran out of work for me to do it, and my regular skills weren't enough. Because I more or less had, like, spent a whole year working on no artwork. Just mild animation, so suddenly they're like, hey, we need you to start working on these things, and I was out of practice, because, yeah, I hadn't done a single, like, original goddamn thing in almost a year. And so I sucked at it, and they're like, well, we'll just put you on QA for a while, and then they're like, well, we don't actually need anybody on QA, so we're letting you go, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was spending, like, half my time just kind of dejectedly watching YouTube videos anyway, because I really don't like SpongeBob that much. So after that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try and get an art job, but nobody's hiring me for that because my portfolio sucks because it's just filled with SpongeBob garbage. So at the same time, I'm going to apply for QA jobs because I know QA jobs are kind of the pits in the games industry, but, like, something's better than nothing no matter what it is. I never got any of those. Instead, I ended up being a professional YouTuber, so I don't know. It worked out. Been having a lot of dreams lately, actually, very specifically centered around, it's probably better to get that 2,000 attack bonus for now. Being back in school and specifically forgetting, straight up, one of the nightmares I've had throughout my entire life is that I straight up forgot that I had a class. Like, that somehow it just slipped in my mind to check my schedule, and there was this just nebulous class that was just there. And I'd somehow just forgotten all about it. And, let's see, what's my chi? My chi's actually pretty good. And so, like, partway through, I get, like, my report card for every class. And it's just, like, Intro to French, F. And I'm like, where did this class come from? And then there's, like, the fear of, like, okay, shoot. I might be able to, like, go talk to the teacher and, like, defer my grade or drop out or whatever, and I straight up can't find the room either, so I have to, like, deal with it. It's weird, it's dumb. I don't like these dreams. Luckily, I'm so far past college, I don't have to worry about it. I did live the nightmare out just a little bit once. Recently, so I had a YouTube manager that I would have scheduled meetings once a month with. And, so it was usually like on the 13th or something like that. I don't really remember. And we talk about my channel and like where I'm going and how the hell I even do what I do and so on and so forth. And he'd tell me about new features, like the new YouTube back-end layout and stuff like that. More or less like guide me through some things. Oh, right. There's sell. Alright, well, let's sell all these and go on to the next area. Yeah, everybody else has those dreams too. Yeah, I know I'm definitely not the only one on this. But it was just one of those where... Let's see. Yeah, I should probably get that 1 point. Maybe. In regen. That worth it? That's tough. Extra 6,000 damage, but I lose 6,000 health. And a bunch of attack speed. I don't think I want to do that. Let's see. But yeah, so I had a meeting with my YouTube manager. It was just after I'd moved in, but Shell wasn't there. I guess I should probably start speccing into meditation here. Yeah, just after we'd moved in, and just before PAX, and more or less I was supposed to meet up with him and talk about my channel as our last meeting. And I just slept in. I was like, okay, I'll be fine. It's like... Well, it's not even that I slept in. It's, all of our meetings had always been at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that. Or like 2 in the afternoon or something. It was, whatever it was. But you know, it was super consistently always at the same time. Except for, because I had moved time zones, it was 2 hours earlier. So, you know, I guess my meeting was at 11, when it would have been at 1, because we'd scheduled the meeting before I'd moved cross-country. And so, I had in my mind 3 p.m., or not 3 p.m., 1 p.m., and so I wake up at noon, because I was dead tired, because I was prepping for PAX. And more or less, like, I double-check my calendar, because I have this, like, sinking feeling, like, oh shit, did I screw up? And I guess it wasn't quite noon, it was like 11:40 something. And yes, I indeed had screwed up, and missed my meeting, effectively. And he was no longer there, and it was just like, well, shoot. I finally got to live that nightmare of mine. Not that it was, like, that big of a deal, and he was super friendly about it, and he's like, yep, I understand. And I talked to some of the other people that he was managing, and apparently they had missed way more than I ever had. So I was like, okay, that's mildly validating. I'm not the trash human being that I thought I was. I mean, I still am, but still wasn't so bad. Actually, some of these are really good. Let's see, if you run the boss before sell, you can get rare gear to enhance. Fair enough. This seems to be working, though. Probably should have actually healed there. I'm being lazy. I shouldn't be lazy. We could probably also just enhance stuff. Oh, jeez. I probably should replace my Hermit's armor. I can't imagine that's actually very good. But yeah, so that was kind of my, like, career path. And now it's kind of like I don't want to retire anytime soon, obviously. But I dream of, like, retiring as some kind of writer or something. Because I think that would be an easy thing for me to do. Either that or just, like, be full-on, like, maybe not Matt Mercer, but just, like, sit around running D&D campaigns until people are sick of my existence. I just have to make sure I have enough people to play D&D with. Oh, we'll be starting a campaign maybe even next week, so we'll see how it goes. Let's see, what do I do? Damage? We'll do damage. It does feel like spreading between attack, HP, and defense isn't working that well. Yeah, what about the webcomic with the door and the character? Every day I sit down and say, okay, tonight I'm going to start working on that, or this afternoon I'm going to start working on that. And then every day I end up recording more games, and then not staying. And then staying up later than I should, doing nothing. Honestly, now that we're done, like, trying to play whack-a-mole with dogs, I'm in this, like, one awkward state of my in-laws are coming in about a week? 2 weeks. And so, like, I kind of have to prep for them, but I'll figure it out. They're not giving me a single piece of chest armor here, and I gotta get rid of it. I guess, let's go pummel that one, let's go to Hyptera and just go fight that boss. This is easy enough anyway. Oh, I'm on ×3, I wasn't even on ×5, whoopsie. So did the doggo get removed? No. The owners finally realized that their dog was barking so much it was illegal, and so they decided to finally take the warning seriously. So it's actually the same piece of equipment that I've already got, so yeah, that's not going to be very good. We did get a fair amount of levels from that, though. Oh, did we? We did okay. But yeah, so originally we had sent them a warning, more or less being like, well, no, we talked to them and they're like, no, you know, we're not going to do anything with our dog. Dogs just bark. And it's like, they don't bark that much. Like, I'm no expert in dogs, but they don't bark that much. Wow, he is worth a lot of levels, actually. And so then we more or less call animal control and be like, yeah, so there's a dog that's barking for, like, literally all day. Dusk till dawn, and they're like, yeah, that's a problem. We'll go, you know, tell them to cut it out. Let's see, is that worth it? Not really. Better just go for the healing. And so, yeah, animal control goes out, gives them the warning, and the people, like, I think were quiet for about 2 days, and they're like, nah, screw it, we're just gonna have our dog out in the backyard barking for days on end. So I just set up one of my spare microphones in the window and was like, well, time to just record this dog's existence. And then I sent the clip to the animal control people, and they're like, yeah, that's really bad. We're on it. So they went out, more or less told the people, like, oh, well, gave them, like, an official citation, which might come with, like, a financial penalty. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, that's a better set of rings at the very least. And 4 stats is pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to enhance this ring. I don't know if it's a good idea, but it's one of the better rings I've ever seen. Max it out! At least it wasn't a biting dog. I don't know if it was or wasn't. They never took it on walks, so you have no idea where this dog is or what it does or what it even sounds like. Like, I actually feel really bad for the dog. If the dog wasn't... I would feel worse for the dog if it didn't have such an annoying bark. And, you know, so on and so forth. But I still felt bad for it, because, yeah, they never took it out. They clearly never trained it. They almost never even really, like, took care of it. Seemingly. And, yeah, that was super depressing. So we're just like, okay. And now... I don't think the dog's life has improved, unfortunately. But ours has. So... I don't know, I'll take that as a bit of a win. Because, yeah, we still hear it occasionally, but it comes out and it's just, like, super barking. Like, really high-pitched. And I'm gonna say, like, it doesn't sound panicked necessarily, but it sounds, like, weirdly distressed. Like, it hasn't been able to bark much for, like, weeks. And, well, not weeks, days. And so it's trying to bark as much as possible in, like, the short period of time that it's outside now. Which is weird and really bleak. And I don't like it, but at least I get to sleep. At some point, I want to try a Kairos build, because I think that would actually be really fun. I don't know if it'd be any good, though. Let's see. Fusion control. Fusion... Man, what am I even saying? My brain is mildly fried. This game is just a lot of staring at numbers. We should probably switch shortly. I think we'll get up to the next time jump, then we'll go back. But yeah, that comment, at least I get to sleep, that says it all. I didn't get enough sleep. We had another dog wake us up this morning. A really deep bark, much further away, but it was super loud. And it barked from like 6 a.m. till 6:30, so... I actually didn't get to sleep, but at least if I wanted to, I could have taken a nap today if I wasn't like, nope, I got shit to record because I'm busy. Because that's my other problem is, like, I am a bit of a workaholic. Like, I do actually spend too much time in front of this computer working. And I personally really enjoy it, but there are definitely, like, days where I probably should just, like, say, yeah, I'm just gonna take the night off. But I don't do that because taking the night off usually means setting myself back in some way. Either on my backlog or many other things. And personally, like, I don't personally mind. But I definitely don't sleep as much as I probably should, here and there. Is that... Oh, that's an even better sword. Crit power. Not bad. Get rid of those. It would be interesting to try like a Chiron build. Because increasing his movement and attack speed by 200%, that probably scales up to about 500% plus the damage. Let's try that. It's going to be a stupid build. We'll do maybe one more and then screw myself over really hard, maybe. Right, I keep clicking on the stat tab, even if it means nothing here. Downtown of Gamora. Hey, we're back up to where I was, and they're kind of hurting me. I should... Wait, no, these guys actually drop some special gear. So I should see what the gear they drop is. And the amount of damage you start taking in this is harsh. Yeah, let's see if I can get a 4-stat on one of these. Or not a 4-stat, a 3-stat. Because if I can get defense, attack, and HP on one of these guys, then they'll throw it in the booster. Next available one in a couple levels. Actually, the difference between what I'm currently wearing isn't so bad. Let's take off these two. I'm just going to enhance the butts out of them. I don't want to do max, though. I mean, I could. But it would be better to almost, like, split it. I wish you could actually drag the level. But, oh well. I guess we're just maxing this armor. We'll just max this out. Maybe I could actually beat the boss. Oh, actually, that split the levels. Perfectly, in fact. Crit bonus on that is not nearly as good as I was hoping it would be.